I thought this palm tree would make a great drawing subject for daily drawing practice. Palm trees certainly have their challenges. While they don't give us the same difficulty that a leafy tree canopy would give us with millions of leaves that we have to try to capture the effect of, instead they give us, I think, a little bit, even sometimes more of a dilemma, that they have all these fronds that come out that are large enough that we sort of almost maybe have to draw them individually, and yet we also can't get bogged down in starting to draw them in too much detail, because then it becomes an agony, and then we're going to end up with something looking unrealistic because we still can't draw the detail of all the palm fronds. So at some point we have to switch from drawing individual palm fronds to drawing the effect of palm fronds, and even with each frond draw the effect rather than what we see. And there is quite distinct shadow and shade on these, but it's a quite different effect to the more generalized leafy canopy, where the shadows are certainly at the base of the fronds, where they bend to go into the trunk, but also on the undersides, and often on the side of a V-shaped frond that's away from the sun. So there's quite a bit to be looking at, thinking and doing in 10 minutes. And so we can't agonize too much. But trying to do the first ones, the ones coming out towards us, which are the closest first, because we're going to be going slowly, and because it's the start and we always go slower at the start. Therefore, they're going to end up being a bit darker and heavier, which will make them feel a bit closer in relation to the ones that we'll draw later. So starting with those, and also we will use these as our reference point for the rest of the tree. One of the challenges, again, with a palm tree is to capture the individual shape of the fronds as they move towards us or away from us, as they might twist slightly, at least for some of them, to try and capture the fullness of their form, their three-dimensionality, but also to maintain the overall shape, the overall appearance, get the balance, the proportion correct, and to also save in our drawing any asymmetry that we have in the scene, to not end up filling all the gaps and making all the fronds come out equally in 360 degrees like some sort of giant pom-pom. We still want to capture the fact that there'll be some gaps larger than others in between these fronds. The other thing to really pay attention to is the fact that most of the fronds, certainly the upper half of the tree, are going to be coming up and over. They don't come straight out at right angles to the trunk, and they don't fall straight down, except the dead ones close to the trunk. But they go up and over, so there is this arching curve feeling to them that we see in the reference, and we want to capture that. And again, this is where we need to make sure we've observed the feel, the movement, the visual appearance accurately, that we're not just thinking that these are reasonably long, hard, giant leaves that come straight out of the tree. That we get a feel for the way they attach, and the way that attachment changes from the newly growing fronds at the top, which do come more straight up and out, and the larger ones that start to bend down as they grow heavier and longer. So I'm trying to do that as well, and you can see I'm trying to suggest the effect of the light on the shadows, at least on one side of the frond. And now I'm trying to work out how far up I go. Now that was too big and not a very successful shape, but I'll crowd it in with some other ones to take attention away from it. I'm using a 0.3mm Copic fine liner pen. I thought I'd need something with a fair amount of ink to get some of the darkness accurately. And again, being aware that some of these fronds are coming straight out at us, but they're still arching and curving. And some are coming out on each side of those central ones at a 3/4 view. And so we want to have both the appearance and the length to indicate this. So I'm just doing a few more up here. And now trying to keep the overall shape. The other thing I'm trying to do is indicate the fact that they don't all come from the same spot. That the top of the palm tree where the fronds erupt from is quite large, and so some are coming up from one side of the quite thick trunk and others are coming from the other side of the quite thick trunk, which means that some leaves seem to sort of come up vertically through what appears, when we look at the other fronds, to be a more horizontal positioning. Now I'm just doing a few marks to help me indicate where I want these older, more dried out and sometimes basically dead leaves to come. So I'm trying to now massage the overall shape to represent what we have. And the feeling is very much now more hanging down, much less of a curve as the branch has died or is dying in its connection to the tree, and then just being pulled down by the weight of gravity until it eventually falls off and drops to the ground. And now we need to do the trunk. Now, I don't probably join the trunk on as well as I can. It probably isn't quite centered on the canopy. It's a little bit to the left. Or maybe if I just made it slightly wider to the right, but I think it should have come back 1 or 2 millimeters from the left and been 3 or 4 millimeters further to the right. And I think that would have, between the two, kind of nudged it into a better position. And now I'm just trying to do some lines to represent the crisscross effect that the palms, as they drop off, create, the end where the imprint is. And also starting to do some shadow here. So we're basically getting there. The 10 minutes is almost up. And then we're going to double time, where I just spend some more time doing the tree behind, because I thought it could be interesting to represent those trees on the left-hand side with some darker value. And I'm thinking that the actual fronds in this lower section don't come down far enough. Now that the trunk's in place, I'm thinking I need to increase the size, the scale of the lower section of the tree. So just doing that in the final moments of the 10 minutes. And then I think maybe a few more at the top, and get some of these fronds that don't quite sit as if they're coming from the same point as the others, to indicate the width of the growing point at the top of the palm tree. Now, I'm not agonizing over doing the fronds exactly the same as they are. My normal practice with a palm tree is to agonize over the first however many, 6, 10, to try and get the scale and try and get the shape of them looking as palm tree as much as I can. And I find that by trying to actually draw what's there in that starting point is simply the best way to do that. But beyond that, then I use the reference really as a representation of the effect, and I seek to draw the effect more. So just doing these last couple of palm fronds, And then we move into double time. One more makes all the difference. Knowing where to stop is the other thing too with a subject such as this. But particularly with these lower fronds, just trying to capture the feel, the effect, and also remembering that some of them are on the far side and therefore are a bit lighter. I'm still wanting a sense of darkness and detail in the closer sections. And I decide again that now the top of my tree isn't quite high enough, isn't quite full enough. So I add a few more fronds to balance it out. And then I think that pretty much fills that in. Yep, so I'm in double time now. Just add in a bit of value in these last couple of minutes. And now thinking, yep, I'll do some of the trees behind in just this extra time. So this really is just putting in value. It's really just doing hatching to create a darkness in the lower left to, I'm hoping, both give definition to the tree, but we already had definition because we had nothing behind, so the tree was quite clear. So I'm trying to give definition but also contrast, so that it's not just a ball in space, but that while we can still see the fronds clearly, visually there's a little more interest, that we see the lower left section through negative space. And so we pretty much have it. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Well, this took me about 15 minutes in real time, and the final minutes just sped up. But I hope you have a go drawing this. You'll find the palm tree on my channel community page, of course. So why don't you go there and screenshot, print off a copy, or just draw it from a tablet and have a go. Palm trees have their challenges, particularly trying to have them not look like cartoon palm trees, but why not give it a go? But however you draw it, have fun. Bye.